What's going on, everybody? You're listening to the Point2Point NHL Recap Show, Season 3, Episode 15. I'm Pascal Pryor, joined by Mark Havlack. Mark, we got some big news here as we're just starting off to record, so let's get right into the news here. Kiefer Sherwood has been traded from the Vancouver Canucks to the San Jose Sharks. The return is Cole Clayton and 2 second-round picks. Mark, what are your thoughts on the trade here?
Yeah, I mean, there was kind of a lot of heat surrounding him recently that like a lot of teams were interested in him, and why not, right? He's a physical guy that would be able to play in the playoffs. Has got a very solid cap hit at 1.5 million. Like I feel like there's only a couple teams that maybe wouldn't be able to fit him in. But I was seeing a couple of days ago that they were asking for like a first round pick plus. And there were a lot of teams interested, but no one was kind of willing to bite on that price. So I was thinking that there was probably going to be a second round pick and something else. Like, look, I look at this for the Sharks, and I'm just looking to confirm right now it's both of their own second round picks in 26 and 27.
Yeah.
And it's like that second round pick this year is probably going to be, I don't know, like in the 40s. Like, you know what I mean? They're not a bottom team right now. And even if they miss the playoffs, like I'm assuming they're probably going to be like getting the 12th or 13th overall pick or something, right? So it's like in a second round pick the year after where it's a season that you might even be making the playoffs. So
Yeah.
I just think for the Sharks, it's like we were discussing this earlier. They're in a spot now where I don't think they're going to get a top pick anymore, and they may as well try to go and make the playoffs in a weaker Western Conference right now, because even if you get in, you play Colorado or whoever and you lose, it's just like whatever. It's a good experience to get in, and it's probably better get in and play those meaningful playoff games than to just miss, right? So I think adding a guy with experience like this and kind of brings, like, he can score goals, but he's also bringing a little bit different of a style that you don't necessarily have, right? And you have a very young team, so even though it's 2 second round picks and you're not a team that's consistently making the playoffs, like I look at this for San Jose and this is really solid. And like he might get a ridiculous contract this summer, but I also look at it as like San Jose's gonna have so much cap space, man. Like you look at their cap space now, it's barely anything. Well, they've got 2 dead contracts in Carey Price and Logan Couture that aren't even playing for them right now and can be easily just moved to LTIR whenever, right? But what do you think about this deal for both teams, and do you think Vancouver could have got a little bit more?
I'll start off with my San Jose kind of reaction. I think for San Jose, I love it, man. Like, this is a guy that you're probably going to re-sign at the end of the season. As you mentioned, like, even if you do miss the playoffs, that second round pick, it's going to be in the 40s. So, like, it's not like it's going to be the 33rd pick in the draft, right? Where it's like, oh, like, it might actually matter a little bit. The other thing for San Jose, too, is, like, they already got a decent amount of prospects still in the system that aren't yet playing in the NHL, right? So for San Jose as well, like you don't really need those second round picks to bring in a player at the draft. I think for San Jose it was pretty tidy business that they did here. You know, like Celebrini and that core group of players there is going to be loving it that their GM went out and is buying here this season. And then my reaction for Vancouver, look, I don't think it's like a bad return at all, but I just think with the way the market is right now, and it really is a seller's market. There are not many sellers out there at all. I think Vancouver maybe could have gotten a little bit more. Like this is a player in Sherwood where, as you mentioned, his cap hits nothing. So pretty much every team in the NHL can afford him on their salary cap. Like I think there would have been a lot of teams that are interested, and I do think if you were the Canucks and maybe you waited it out a little bit more, you probably could have gone a bit more of a return here. And I'm not saying they probably could have gotten a first round pick plus a really good prospect, but I think they for sure probably could have gotten a first round pick back for sure. What if they waited it out? If I'm Vancouver though, I'm still happy with the return, to be honest. Like
Considering like you signed him as a free agent 2 years ago too. Like,
yeah, and it's like maybe you do wait it out and there are more sellers after the Olympics, right? And you're kind of in a different scenario. I do think they kind of did play the safer route here, but at the end of the day, I do think they could have gotten a little bit more back. But I don't think it's horrendous or anything.
So when you say that, like you say a first round pick potentially, like would you prefer like a first round pick than the 2 seconds. Like, to be honest, I don't think you're getting that first round pick from San Jose, but it's like,
Yeah.
say it was a different team that's like, say it was Colorado or a team that could be near the top where it could be like that first could be in the 25 to 32 range. Like, would you have preferred that one first compared to the 2 seconds? Like, because the thing is, it's like, I think if you're getting a first, you're not getting another pick. You might not even be getting another asset.
Yeah.
But the one thing with the Canucks, I was hearing a couple of days ago is that San Jose selected a guy in the first round a couple of years ago named Philip Bistad. He's playing in the AHL right now, and I think he was picked like 24th overall. They were very interested in him in his draft year. I wonder if they were trying to get him, and it was kind of like, well, if you get him, then we're not giving you anything else, and maybe they wanted
Yeah.
us an additional asset onto this. The one thing I'll say for the Sharks, it's like they didn't give up any of their prospects, and these picks are just like darts at the board right now, right? Like,
Pretty much.
and it's like, when are they even going to play for San Jose, right? Like, it's like San Jose is like starting to be on the upswing slowly right now, right? So it's like, I don't think they really care about a 27 second round pick, right? But I was just curious, like, would you prefer the 1 first compared to the 2 seconds? And I don't think, like I said, I don't think it's the same thing with San Jose. Like, I don't think San Jose, like, their first for Kiefer Sherwood was ever an option.
For me in this year's draft, like honestly, I'd prefer that first over, not sorry, not first overall, but first round pick, especially considering that Ottawa is gonna have to forfeit theirs, right? It's like even if you are, let's say, getting the 27th overall pick, it bumps up to 26. Like I'd rather take that over a pick in the 40s this year, and then next year, let's say a pick in the late 40s to early 50s, because I'd imagine that's where San Jose would be at next year. I'd honestly take that first round pick in this year's draft over the 2 seconds. But like you do have a good point that look, these picks are not for certain. It's a shot at the dartboard, and some people might take those 2 shots over the one, right? Like it is kind of a lottery. So I don't think it's a bad return at all for Vancouver, but I do think if they waited it out a bit more, they probably could have ended up getting a little bit more on the deal. Mark, let's move on to another trade that happened yesterday. It was kind of a big trade and hit home for me. After a long wait, the Calgary Flames have traded defenseman Rasmus Anderson. He'll be joining former teammate Noah Hanifin on the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas is getting Anderson at 50% retained, and they had to give up Zach Whitecloud, a 2027 first, a conditional 2027 second, and prospect Abraham Weeb. If the Knights win the Cup this season, the conditional second turns into a 2028 first round pick. Anderson is also a UFA after this season. Mark, what are your thoughts on the deal?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know if Vegas was going to be the spot. There were so many rumors about Boston. Like,
Yep.
obviously, like Dallas has been a team that I think could be a fit for him, even though that wasn't really talked about as a rumor really lately. Now, we were talking about this yesterday, and my first thought was, if I'm trading Rasmus Anderson, I really want to get a first in 2026. Now,
Yeah.
I understand Vegas doesn't have that option, considering you already have their first from the Hanifin deal. But I'm more just saying, in the grand scheme of things, when if that was a possibility from Boston, you know what I mean? My I don't think it's a bad return. Now, when we were talking about it yesterday, I think I was a little bit more down on it, and I was like, man, like it's just my perception is it's like nothing's going to help you immediately, right? It's like you got to wait till 2027 to just make that pick, and then
Yeah.
it's like even if they win the cup and it becomes a first, it's almost like, well, you kind of lost the trade if they won the cup. Like, you know what I mean? Unless you go on to win the cup with some of these players eventually, but I think it is a solid return for, I'll be honest, a player that I think is really solid, but at times I do think is a little bit overvalued considering he is a right-handed defenseman. Like, I don't know about you. I look at Rasmus Anderson and I think he's a very solid top 4 defenseman, but I think if
Yeah.
you start playing him too much and he becomes a top pairing guy, I think you start to run into some problems. Now, I think in Vegas that might be okay considering he's behind Theodore, but I don't like him as like a number 1 guy. And I will be honest, I don't think he's as good in his own zone as a lot of people say he is. I
Yeah.
think he's more offensive than defensive, but he blocks a ton of shots and he can play hard, right? But I just don't see him as like, put it this way, like I wouldn't be comfortable giving him $9 million, to be
Oh
honest.
no.
Even with a rising cap, I think that's overvaluing Rasmus Anderson, saying now he's been on a great contract for many years, right? And I don't want to diminish the player, but I think it's like for a top 4 defenseman, I think that's a really solid return. And the one thing I was thinking about too, man, and I'm curious to know your thoughts about this. The more I think about this trade, the more I think that Zach Whitecloud is getting flipped before the deadline.
Yeah, I could see that. It is tough because if you're the Flames, like you don't want to flip all your defensemen and be rushing guys to the NHL to kind of fill those holes, right? So it is good that it's like Zach Whitecloud came back in the deal where it's like you can play him and not rush these guys. But on the other hand, it's like if Zane Parekh comes back up and you are the Flames and you decide not to send him back to the OHL, it's like, well, Whitecloud is expendable at that point, and you can flip him, right? So it is going to be interesting to see what happens there. But look, for this deal, to be honest, like I think for a top 4 defenseman and probably like he's what, a number 2, number 3 defenseman, right? Honestly, I think the Flames got a pretty decent return here. You got a guy that you can add into your lineup right now and potentially flip if you want to. And then you're getting the first round pick back. Yes, it is in 2027. It does kind of suck that it is a little bit out, but it's like if you're the Flames, like what I'm really seeing from this trade is this is the Flames really showing the fan base that like, look, we're going through a rebuild. You know what I mean? It's not like they got, if the Flames went out and they traded for prospects that can play now in the NHL and second round pick, like whatever it was, right? Like I'd be looking at that, I'd be very disappointed. For me, for this trade, I think the Flames honestly made out pretty well. You're getting a first round pick back. Yes, it's 2027. You'll have to wait, but I think it's fine at that point. And then I actually do like the conditions on the second round pick. It's like it's a second round pick in the next year's draft. But if Vegas wins the cup, it's like you're gonna a second first round pick back. You know what I mean? It's like you could potentially get 2 first round picks back for Rasmus Anderson. And the other thing too is like he's still a UFA at the end of the season. Like this isn't a sign and trade. You know what I mean? If it was a sign and trade, it would have made things probably more difficult, and the Flames probably could have gotten a maybe even a higher asking price. Honestly, I'm happy with this return for the Flames, dude. Like if I'm getting really nitpicky, I would have preferred to see a first round pick in this year's draft and have 3 first round picks in this year's draft, but I'm fine with the 2027 first and second round pick and potentially the 28 first round pick. I understand what you're saying, Mark, where it's like, hey, if Vegas wins the cup, like they clearly won that trade. Honestly, dude, I'm gonna be cheering all year for Vegas to win the cup now, dude. All year. Because it's like if they win the cup, we're gonna second first round pick back, and you can't be not happy about that. Mark,
That's fair. That's fair, dude.
I wanna ask you about the Zach Whitecloud thing. Like, do you think he's gonna get flipped?
Yeah, I do. Because I look at your right side and I envision that Parekh is probably going to get a chance the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Uyghur obviously can play both sides as a righty, but I mean, if the spot's available, you probably put him on the right side. And then I know Braden Pahal's been a guy in and out of the lineup, but I don't really mind him on a bottom pair. You know what I mean? Like for the rest of the season. So I just kind of see him maybe playing a little bit, but he's expendable. Like I look at Whitecloud and I think like this year the results haven't been as good as previous years, but I also think it's because I'm not necessarily convinced he's a top 4 defenseman and he's been playing in the top 4 role. I think he's more like suited for a number 5 kind of spot. But I think like we talk about how hard it is to get right-handed defenseman. The guy makes $2.75 million for, I don't believe he's a UFA this year. I think he's got an additional year. He's got an additional, he's got an additional 2 years till 2028. So it's like you get a guy for a couple years on a manageable cap hit. Like, I don't know, man. Does Dallas pivot to a guy like that they think that can maybe play in the top 4 with like, I don't know, maybe you put him with like Harley and he can play in the top 4, right? But I wouldn't really rely on that, but there's also not a lot available, dude, right? Like,
Yeah,
and I would say that he's going to be an upgrade on Labushkin or like Petrovic, right? So does like even Boston pivot there that they didn't get Rasmus Anderson? I think there's a possibility you guys could get like a second round pick for Zach Whitecloud, dude. I really do. And I honestly, if I was Conroy, like I would maybe put his name out there that like we're open to potentially moving him. But honestly, if I were you guys, I would be like, I would wait until 2:55 on trade deadline day for some team
Yeah.
to be like, oh, fuck, you know what? Our right side's not good enough. Let's go out and get it. And if for you guys, it's like, all right, we got White Cloud. He can play the rest of the year. Maybe we can
Yeah.
flip him in the summer. We can flip him next year. I started to pivot more on the trade. At first, I was like, fuck, I don't think you guys got enough. And then I realized I was like, you got White Cloud, who's solid, and like, you could get 2 firsts. It's just like my preference is it would have been a 26 first, but I get what you're saying, and I don't think it's a bad trade for any means, by
Yeah.
any means, sorry. And then I was more like, fuck, like White Cloud, dude, it's like he could get flipped at any point here. Like, and you guys could get a decent asset for him, even if his results like aren't as good this year as they have been in previous years. But I also think he's just being overplayed because Pietrangelo hasn't been available, right? When they won the cup, it was like that White Cloud Hag pair was a very solid bottom pairing for them, right? Like their top 4 was
Yeah.
obviously great, but the one thing I wanted to ask you about too, Rasmus Anderson definitely upgrades their top 4, right? Now, I'm not convinced that they're like that much better though. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
I don't think if they're playing Colorado, Dallas, or Edmonton in a playoff series right now that I'd be taking them, even with Rasmus Anderson.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. Like, I think their decor definitely, of course, got better. We're having a 1-2-3 now, Theodore, Hanifin, Anderson. But I do think like their goaltending, to be honest, scares the living shit out of me. How it's been kind of this season, and I think up front on forward depth, it's like they could get a little bit more depth. And to be honest, some of their guys really need to get going. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying Eichel and Marner have been having bad seasons, but like I wouldn't say they've also been having seasons maybe that we thought they would have going into the season, right? Like I thought Eichel going into the season was going to be a guy that would kind of be top 5 in the league, really, really kind of a like I'm here that right now and kind of not a heart season, but maybe in the conversation a little bit, right? Where I wouldn't say that's really happened from them so far. I find this Vegas team, it's really weird to judge what they are just with how many OT losses they have, man. It's like you
Yeah.
take
Well,
away
they've
those
actually been very hot recently. They've been a
yeah,
lot better, but yeah, the OT loss is just throwing me off. And the thing is, it's like for sure the goaltending, it's like goaltending can get hot whenever, but it's still a huge worry. And like besides recently, it's like I still feel like they struggle to score sometimes. And it's
yeah,
like, is that really hurt them in the playoffs last year, right? So it's like, yeah, okay, Anderson was probably like it's an upgrade and like probably a need since Petrangelo's out, but I still kind of think they have a couple holes. Like I'm not. They might be a contender like in the West, but it's like overall in the league, it's like I don't know, dude. Like I don't really envision them getting like out of the second round right now.
yeah. I definitely do think they still need to make a couple more moves here, and it's gonna be weird too, because for Vegas, it's like what like true assets do you really have left now?
See, now I
Besides
think it's like
Conley,
Trevor Connolly. Yeah,
that's kind of it though, right? It's like you don't have any picks really. Like uh, part of the thing that I find hilarious about this deal is that if Vegas does win the cup, the Flames will own their next 3 first-round picks. Like I don't know if
yeah,
that's ever happened in the history of the league where a team owns another team's 3 consecutive first-round picks, which I find hilarious. But I was kind of under the same as you. Like last night when I found out about the deal, I was a little bit disappointed as my initial reaction, just with the first round pick being in 2027 and not 2026. But the more I kind of look at the deal and think about it, like I'm happy with the deal, man. You're turning a 2-3 defenseman into a first round pick, a second round pick, and whatever a return could be for Zach Whitecloud. And this Abraham Weeb guy, I don't know if you know much about him. I know really nothing about this guy, but I mean, there is a little bit of interest there. Like, I'm not saying the guy's a for sure going to play in the NHL, but like, he's playing in university right now. He's a bit older. He played in the BCHL. He was defenseman of the year when he was playing in the BCHL, right? Like, I think there might be a little bit of potential there. I'm not saying this guy's going to be coming into the Flames and he's your first pairing defenseman, but like he could be an NHL player that we're seeing in 2 to 3 years, and you know what I mean. Like if you can get that as well back, I think for the Flames it's an okay deal. It would have been, I think it would have been tough to get more in a deal back from some of these other teams. Mark, talking about the trades today, we're gonna stay on topic and go through our trade bait board here before the Olympics. I'll get things kicked off, and my first player is Artemi Panarin of the New York Rangers. Right now, he's making roughly $11 million AAV. He's a UFA at the end of this year. Look, the New York Rangers, Chris Drury, he's already come out and said they're not going to be re-signing Panarin. So it's just a matter of when he's going to get traded. Mark, I think a great landing spot for Panarin is the LA Kings. I think LA, you're in the Pacific Division right now. It's not the strongest position, or pardon me, division. You kind of could use another top six forward here. Plus, we all know you're going to be losing Kopitar after the season. It's like when Kopitar leaves, you could re-sign Panarin. I think Panarin would be a great fit playing with LA and playing on a line with Kempe. What do you kind of think about that?
Yeah, I think for a team like LA, it's like I just think this year they should be willing to get rid of that first round pick to go for it, because
Yeah,
I know they might not be a contender, but it's like it's Kopitar's last year. You got to give him something you know what I mean? You got to give him something to send off. I don't even know what if I'm saying that properly, but you kind of understand what I'm saying.
yeah,
He's got to get at least try to give him a last run. You know what I mean? And you got to do the same thing for Doughty when his time's up. But LA they've been pretty stagnant the last couple deadlines. Like they've been making first round picks in like the 20s, and like I get Liam Greentree's a pretty solid player. Like, but I don't know. I just think they've sort of transitioned into like this win now window, and it's like I don't
yeah,
really see the point of them just holding on to these like first round picks. Like I think they should just be willing to go out and risk it to get a difference maker like Artemi Panarin. Like even if you don't end up re-signing him, I think just like going out to acquire him for like the 18th overall pick, like at least give you a better shot of like getting out of the first round. Like maybe you can somehow go to the conference finals or something. Like I don't know, like Darcy Kemper is a good goalie. You're telling me he couldn't
yeah.
help you win a couple of rounds? Like maybe it would be better if you don't face the Oilers. But I honestly I think that's a pretty good landing spot overall for Panarin. Like, I mean, there's obviously a couple other teams that would be interested, and maybe the Rangers are going to have to retain some salary just to kind of make it work and be able to fit into like some of these better teams' cap overall. But if I was LA, I would be totally in on this and be willing to give up assets to at least get Artemi Panarin to come in for the rest of the season, because maybe there's a chance you can convince him to stay. Like, you never really know, right?
Yeah, I'd definitely love to see it. Mark, who's the first guy on your board?
So the first guy on my board, I'm going to go with Braden Shen of St. Louis. Now, there's been a ton of rumors around him and like where he could go and if he's going to move over. It seems like the past year or so, there's been some pretty like ridiculous asking prices, I think, from different teams for Braden Shen, and I don't think that he's getting like a first round pick plus multiple prospects. I think that's a bit nuts. Now, I envision Braden Shen as like a third line center on a playoff team. I think if you put him in the top six, you're asking a little bit too much, and like you're probably going to get 30 points from him, like as pretty much what he's projecting right now. I like Braden Shen. There's a couple different teams that could use a third line center, but I think
Yeah,
I like Braden Shen in Washington.
yeah, that would be a good fit.
You get Dubois coming back. McMichael doesn't have to play center as much. You can kind of slot him into a top six wing spot. And it's just another veteran guy who's won the Stanley Cup. You never know if it could be Ovi's last hurrah or maybe he's going to stay. But I think if it's another team like Washington, like, dude, you just got to. I know you've drafted very well. And I think because you've drafted very well recently and got your Cole Hudson, your Ryan Leonard, you know what I mean? That
You can
you
afford.
can go out and trade your first round pick if you have to, or your second and a couple prospects. I'm not saying trade Cole Hudson, but I think it's like it's always just give him a chance. You know what I mean? You've done such a good job as a team that a couple years ago you thought you were out of it in the sense that Ovi's never going to have a chance to win a cup again. And you made these nice little retooling moves and with some good drafting that I don't think they're a contender, but they're a team that I totally see getting back to the second round this year, maybe if they can. I mean, they've been struggling recently, but they got to get back in a playoff spot. But they can win a round. Like, you never know. You can add a couple pieces. Maybe you can get to a conference finals. Like, the Metro's pretty open right now, dude. Like, there's not Carolina's like not really playing as well as they have been in the past regular seasons. So I think there's a chance that if Washington makes a couple moves, like they could go on a little bit of a playoff run here. And I like Braden Shen fitting on their team because I've been saying for a year I think they've lacked a third line center. And I thought last year they were going to go out and try to get like Jake Evans or Scott Lawton or something to try and fill that hole. But I like Braden Shen for them.
Yeah, I think that would definitely be a great fit there, bring Shen to the Capitals. Next up, Mark, on my trade bait board, I got Dougie Hamilton. Right now, he's making $9 million with the New Jersey Devils. He does got a couple years left here on his contract. He's going to be UFA at the end of the 2028 season. Mark, I know you're going to agree with me on this because we've kind of talked about it a little bit over the past week while we're not recording the podcast, but I think a great landing spot, to be honest, would be the San Jose Sharks. Right now for the Sharks, it's like, hey, we just talked about it, what, 20 minutes ago? They're kind of in the in a buy now mode with how good this young core has been and how they still got a lot of prospects coming up. When you look at the right hand side on defense for the Sharks, it's Klingberg, Liljegren. Like, you could definitely Dougie Hamilton would be a massive upgrade. The other thing too is with New Jersey probably not going to want to retain on this Dougie Hamilton contract. Like, you could probably get him for a pretty decent price right now if you're the San Jose Sharks. Because if you're San Jose, you're looking at it. You're almost looking at it where not many teams around the NHL can afford to take on Dougie Hamilton's contract right now. And you're almost looking at it if you're San Jose, where you're going to New Jersey and you're saying, like, we're kind of taking a bad contract almost off your books here. Like, let's kind of get a good deal here. I think, and as you mentioned earlier, San Jose, like with all the money they have that they can put onto LTIR, like they can afford taking on that Dougie Hamilton contract. I would love to see Dougie Hamilton go to the Sharks and kind of bolster that decor. You get a veteran presence in there on the right hand shot where San Jose is very weak right now. How do you like that fit, Mark?
I think it's a good fit because I think he's also like a power play guy who is very
Yeah.
offensive, and I think he's just going through a bit of a rut right now. Now I don't think he's like necessarily worth the $9 million, but I don't think he's necessarily like that far off. Like, I don't think it's like this
Yeah.
astronomical terrible contract. Now, I think the return would definitely differ depending on a couple different teams, considering San Jose is a team that could make it work cap wise. If you were just specifically the Sharks, what would you be willing to give up? Like, I know you're kind of saying you're taking a bad contract, and I get it, but I
Yeah.
also don't see Dougie Hamilton being traded for future considerations, considering
Yeah.
that I think he's like, he could have like top four potential. Now, do you think like Dougie, it's different now considering they just traded two of them, but like, do you think if they gave up like a second round pick for Dougie Hamilton, is that like too much? Like, would you be looking for more? Like, would you even try to make a swap where it's like a second round pick and Liljegren? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you think New Jersey's just trying to get out of this completely? Like, do you think San Jose is going to be like, nah, we don't want to take this full 9 million. Like, you got to take at least something back,
See,
right?
I
Nick
think San
Leddy, maybe
Jose.
he was just put on waivers. Like, I know it's 4 million and it's bad, but it's also like 9 million's a lot of money to just take up
Yeah.
straight up.
See, I think San Jose would be more than fine taking on that full 9 million, but I think if they are doing that, like it's going to put New Jersey in a tough position where it's going to be I don't think New Jersey would be getting a return that is really amazing, right? Like if I'm San Jose and I'm taking on the full 9 million, I think I'd be sending back like second or third round pick and a younger player that's kind of ready to play now, or even a prospect if something that uh is what New Jersey would like, right? Like I'm not saying like a Quentin Musty, but like some sort of prospect that's not playing in the NHL right now. I'd be fine sending that back along with the pick. Or if New Jersey want to back a player that can play now, like I'd even send that back maybe with a lower pick. Like I think for San Jose and Greer, like we've seen throughout his time that he's very good at how he handles his assets. Look, this Dougie Hamilton kind of trade rumors, it really does have his name written all over it, to be honest, just with what the player that they could get back for the assets and how it would work with their cap structure. I would really like to see that. Mark, who is second here on your trade board?
I'm gonna go with Michael McCarron of the Nashville Predators. He's more of like a fourth line center who's bigger and physical and can win faceoffs. Now he only makes $800,000, and I think
Yeah.
with Nashville maybe being a little bit, I mean they're sort of in it. I don't think they're going to be in the race once playoff time comes. I think he's just going to be that kind of prototypical 4C that a lot of teams would like be interested in. That's very cheap. I like him in Edmonton. I don't think Edmonton, like right now, like they're kind of flip flopping their 4C and like Lazar's in and out of the lineup. Their top three centers when healthy are all left-handed: McDavid, Henrique, Draisaitl. So I think them just kind of getting a depth guy that you never know, he could be in and out of the lineup. He's probably not going to cost you a whole lot, like maybe a fourth or third round pick at very most. I think this would be a pretty good ad for some teams that are looking for some depth at center. And it's easier to find left-handed center than right-handed center. It's almost like defense at times, I feel like, especially in accordance to depth. And I think McCarron would be a nice ad for the Oilers because he also brings a little bit of physicality too.
Yeah, I think it would be perfect for the Oilers. I know earlier when we were talking about the Sherwood trade before we were on the podcast, I said, man, I would have loved to see Sherwood go to Edmonton and kind of fill a hole there with that physicality. Moving on to my third guy mark on my trade board, I got another Calgary Flame here. They're kind of all over my trade board. I got Blake Coleman. He's making 4.9 million right now. He's a UFA in 2027. Look, he's got a manageable cap hit for sure, and the Flames they could still retain because they do have one retention spot left, I believe. Look, I think the best fit for him going to his going to his hometown state and playing for the Dallas Stars. When you look at Dallas, this is a team that is in a loaded division with the Wild and the Avalanche there. You know, all of those teams are really just going to be stacking up here at trade deadline so they can make it out of the first round. I think right now when you look at Dallas, Blake Coleman would fit perfectly playing on their third line and add a little bit of depth scoring there. He's also a pretty physical player. He can play like he's reliable defensively. He can play two ways. He can play both wings. He can even play center a little bit. I would very much enjoy seeing Blake Coleman going and playing for the Dallas Stars. What do you kind of think about that fit though?
No, I don't know. Um, I just really look at Dallas and I think that they should tackle a defenseman before a forward. I don't think it's like a bad fit, and I think it would make their top nine more dangerous, considering like they had Granlund last year and they didn't really replace him, and Coleman would be like a nice add on a manageable cap hit. But
Yeah.
I feel like I'd be okay with doing it if they did tackle some sort of defense problem first. But I would say that if they went out at the deadline and all they did was add Blake Coleman, I would be like, here's another year of Dallas not having a top four right-handed defenseman. Right. Like I
See,
think that's their main need right now. And it's not that I don't think Coleman could be an asset to them if they got him, but I think that defenseman is their main priority right now.
I was with you on that when I was looking at their roster and their kind of lineup breakdown. I was thinking like Coleman would be a great fit, but they also do need to address the defenseman. I think what helps here is that like Coleman's asking price. I think you probably like if you're Dallas, you probably could afford to get Coleman and a right hand shot defenseman. And hey, maybe you're getting both done in one trade and you're getting Blake Coleman and Zach Whitecloud, right? Like that could be a possibility right now. You mentioned a bit ago, Zach Whitecloud would be a pretty good fit there on the Dallas Stars. Maybe if you're Dallas, you're looking at it and you're like, hey, we could get Coleman and Whitecloud in one trade. So I would definitely like to see that. Marka, who's up next for you?
So since the letter came out with the New York Rangers, it looks like that
Letter.
they are going to be selling some of their assets. And kind of one, I guess you'd call more minor piece that I honestly think some teams are going to be calling for some goalie insurance with Jonathan Quick.
Yeah.
I really do. And we were talking about them earlier. I think as an option in the playoffs, considering their goalies have been so bad, I think that he could end up in Vegas again. And I would not surprise me one bit, considering that, I mean, Hart's injured, but he hasn't been really playing well. Aiden Hill's been struggling all year. I feel like Akira Schmid's been their most consistent goalie, and I mean, you're not going to be relying on him once it comes playoff time. I think that there's a good chance that Jonathan Quick is going to be moved, and I think that Vegas is still sort of peeking around the goalie territory right now to see what's out there, considering that I think if they go up against some of these big dogs, I don't know if their goaltending is going to keep up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all with you on that. I think Vegas definitely could use a goaltender. And hey, Jonathan Quick would be a great fit not only for what he can provide to the team, but also for the contract he's on right now. The only thing I look at there is like I wonder if Quick. I don't think he has a no trade clause or any trade protection or anything like that. But I just wonder. It's like I wonder if with a guy like Jonathan Quick, where it's like he is at the end of his career. I believe it's his last season. He's already said no, or maybe
I
I'm
don't
just
know. Did he? I
not
don't
aware of
think he
that. But
did.
I just wonder if with Quick, it's like almost if the Rangers and jury would kind of give him the Ryan O'Reilly Nashville um kind of treatment and say like, look, like we're if you want to get traded, we'll trade you, but we'll act as if you have a no trade clause. You know what I mean? So that's the only like I do think it would be a great fit send Jonathan Quick to Vegas, but I just wonder with that whole situation, Quick and how it would be handled on the Rangers kind of side of things. Moving on to my fourth guy mark on my list, I got another Calgary Flame here. Surprise, surprise. I went with Nazem Kadri. He's currently making $7 million. He's a UFA in 2029. This one was a little tough just because it's like if you're the Flames, you're probably not going to be retaining anything on this deal, or if you are, you're not going to be retaining a whole lot just with the time that's left on the deal. I think a good landing spot for him, though, to be honest, would be the Red Wings. This is a team right now over the last couple of seasons that hasn't really gone out and bought at the trade deadline. Right now they're in a playoff spot, and like, look, I got to be honest, they should go out and buy. I think they could, without a doubt, use a centerman that could be playing on their second or third line, and I think Kadri would fit that pretty well. He adds in a bit of a veteran presence, and the other thing with him is like if you're the Red Wings, you can bring on that contract and not really have to worry a whole lot about your cap situation. What would you kind of think about that trademark?
Yeah, I think Detroit's kind of lacked a 2C for some time, and I think that they've been more to try and draft and develop in that area. And like Casper
Yeah,
has had a bit of an underwhelming season. Nate Danielson's still in the pipeline for them too. But if they are going to make some sort of a splash, I mean, I look at them. I still think they need a top four defenseman, and I mean, a second line center is definitely something that they could use as well. I think there's a bunch of teams that could benefit from having Nazem Kadri, but I think it's a great spot you put him, considering that Detroit would definitely have what you guys would be interested in, considering
yeah,
they haven't gone out and spent any draft picks, or they still have an abundance of prospects in their pool right now. So it would be interesting, considering like he's a London guy too. It's not really too far from
kind of
home.
close to home. Yeah,
Um, Kind of like stick it to the Leafs a little bit too, being close to them, and playing them within their division throughout the year. So, not really a spot I thought a whole lot about for him, but I mean, it's a spot that would work, I think.
yeah. It was tough doing it this morning when I was kind of picking landing spots for him because with that Anderson trade last night, right? It's like it would have helped if you could have used retention there on Kadri, but like to be honest, I think it's a lot more likely that the Flames would use retention on a guy like Blake Coleman over Nazem Kadri, right? Or if you are sending Kadri out, like you might have to do a three-way trade. I don't know if you can still do a three-way trade. I think this is the last season of that, right?
No, you can
the
still
the
do no,
team.
you can still do them. It's just that if there's retention involved, it has to be 75 days
Yeah,
before. So technically, like if you guys had
yeah,
if Vegas had retained on White Cloud and then you guys and then flipped them 75 days later, you guys could retain again.
yeah.
But that's starting this year actually. So
But yeah,
you're going to see less double retentions this year and moving forward.
but yeah, with the whole retention thing, I think it just made the landing spots for Kadri a little bit harder. Mark, moving on to your fourth guy, who do you have there?
So I know they've been playing better lately, and they're kind of in and out of the playoffs. But I don't really envision Seattle being kind of in the playoffs when the time comes. And I think that they should be looking to sell some guys again, considering that they do have a decent amount of UFAs this year. One guy I've been beating at the drum all year that I think teams could benefit from is Jamie Alexiak. I
Yep.
think he's a big physical defenseman that can bring some kind of secondary defensive offense to your team. And I think that if you kind of got him into a playoff environment, he could. He hasn't been playing super like mean all year, and I think that if you got him into a team that is willing to play that way, that it could benefit. Now, I see two teams, dude, that I think could benefit so much from this guy: Florida, Colorado.
Yeah.
I think he's both kind of their type of players. I think that after Colorado, they're a little bit. They've got a lot of skill on their back end, right? And Manson is really one of their only physical guys. So I look at maybe somehow getting Sam Girard out of there and bringing in a Jamie Alexiak, maybe not like a 1-for-1, but almost like a little bit of an upgrade. I almost think that Girard's like role's a little bit diminished there now, considering Brent Burns has came in, provided offense that Sam Malinsky guy does as well. Girard's just not really
Yeah.
playing a whole lot or very well. And then with Florida, it's like, I mean, they lost Nate Schmidt. They went out and got Petrie. Kulikov's been kind of in and out, but I just think that Alexiak would be almost an upgrade on both of them. And I also think it's a guy where he's probably not going to cost you a first round pick. Like it's probably going to be like a second and something, which I'd be more than willing to pay for, right? And I don't think just necessarily those two teams are the only ones that would be like interested. I just think that like those are two cup contenders, and if they add something like that to their team, I think that it could put them over the edge.
Yeah, I think with a guy like Jamie Alexiak, like I agree with you on those two teams would be very good fits, but as you kind of said, like I think look, if you're any playoff team, you'd probably have some sort of interest in Alexiak, a bigger right-hand shot defenseman that can slide in on your bottom pairing. Like I think every playoff team for the right price would go out and make that deal if they could. Moving on to my last guy, Mark, I kind of got a want the similar way to you. I went with Luke Shen, right-hand shot defenseman. He's currently on his last year of his contract with the Jets, making 2.75 million. Look, if you're the Jets, man, like it's a seller's market. You could probably have a team come in right now and overpay for Luke Shen, to be honest. I think at least there's really like you mentioned Alexiak, and it's like right now with Seattle even being in the playoffs, it's like I don't even know if they're like fully on board with selling Alexiak right now. It's like Luke Shen, without a doubt, I think he's going to get moved if I'm Winnipeg. Like I'd really try to get this move done before some of these other teams kind of start to fall out of it, and there's a bit more competition there on the sellers market. For my best fits, Mark, it was a little tough. I went with any any playoff team, any playoff team. I think that with Luke Shen, it's like he's a guy that can come in, play on your bottom pairing. If he needs to sit in the press box for a game or two in the playoffs, like he can adjust to that. I think a lot of teams that are going to be in the playoffs would love to have this guy on their team. Mark, who is your
Interesting.
last player on your board?
So I went with another goaltender. I went with Stuart Skinner. I think that if Pittsburgh, they've been playing better lately, but if they fall out of it, I think that there's going to be a lot of teams interested in Stuart Skinner. We kind of talked about it once the trade happened. That I mean, you can say what you want about the guy, but he's won 7 playoff rounds in the last 3 years, and he could be overrated, but he's not overpaid. He makes
Yeah,
$2.6 million. Pittsburgh can also retain half of that if they want. I just I just don't think that there isn't a possibility that a playoff team that might be very weary about their backup goalie wouldn't be like, for the right price, like we could bring in Stuart Skinner, and like he can also just jump into a series whenever, and he's shown that he can adjust and play well. Now, I wrestled with this for a little bit, and my initial thoughts, I honestly, I would have done this a couple weeks ago, right when he was traded. I think it's a little bit of a lost cause now, and I wouldn't do it. I was thinking Ottawa because Marilainen's been bad. Ullmark's been out.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if I'd be willing at this point to go out and give a second round pick for Stuart Skinner, considering you don't have a first this year. We talked about last week how I think they should be kind of patient until the deadline. Hear me out on this. What about Carolina?
Carolina, I think would be a great
With
spot.
Kochetkov out?
Just with the health of their goaltenders, like you never know. I think Carolina would be a good landing spot for him.
And the thing too is that I mean, other years we kind of talked about it, but they've had, I mean, their goaltending regardless has been very solid over the years,
Yeah.
despite them not being able to like reach the cup. But it's also like Freddie Anderson's having a very bad season this year.
Yeah.
And Brandon Bussey's been, I mean, they've been sort of rotating, but I still don't think they have like confidence that he's like going to
The
ride
guy.
them through the playoffs. Man, the more I thought about this yesterday, I was like, dude, I think this is their goalie move. That it's like you don't have to commit to him for like you don't even have to re-sign him. You just like see if he can be the guy to get you through,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't know. I thought about Vegas, and then I'm like, I don't know if they want to bring in that much money. I think they prefer like something like Quick. They're familiar with him, right? I was like, man, I think that this might be a good spot for him in Carolina.
The other thing too is like you said with Ottawa, who knows if they really want to go and spend those assets to get a guy like Stuart Skinner. Like Carolina, without a doubt, I think they'd be fine going out and spending the assets that they need to bring in Stuart Skinner. I actually really like that one, Marky. I was looking at I was thinking about Jordan Bennington earlier when I was doing the prep for the show, and I was thinking about Bennington to Carolina even, but I was like, no, I don't know if that one makes sense. I think it might
I
be
think it's
a
a
different
hard
goalie.
time to trade him though. Like it's like
Yeah.
I think your valuations from team to team on that guy right now are
Mm,
very indifferent. I think some teams are looking at it like, dude, we're taking a bad contract off your books, and St. Louis probably
yeah.
doesn't see it that way, right? Like I think you keep him till after at least the Olympics, see what he
Yeah.
does there. Maybe some team will be like, okay, he might have an 880 in the regular season, but fuck, dude, he can put up a 920 in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So I think with Bennington, you at least just stay patient for about a month or
Yeah.
probably about 6 weeks now at this point. But I think with Pittsburgh, obviously, like if they're going to make the playoffs, like I probably wouldn't trade Stuart Skinner, considering I think it would be like kind of a little bit of a kick in the dick to Crosby. But
Yeah.
if you do start to fall out of it here, like after the Olympics, like I don't know, man. I just think it's like Carolina. We've been talking about a goalie for so long. What are they going to do? It's like this is your perfect chance to bring someone in when there's an injury and see if it works out. And maybe if he brings you to the conference finals, there's interest and you bring him back, right?
Yeah, I definitely love that trademark. Let's move on to the final segment of the show. It's the game segment. Today we're going to be doing career path, guess the player. So me and Mark each put together a career path for a player, and we're going to have to guess the player. Mark, do you want to get things started with guessing?
Yeah, for sure, dude. You can put your team up whenever, and I'll get
All
going.
right, you will have a minute 30 to guess this player's career path. So he started off at Union College in the NCAA. Then he went on to play for the Philadelphia Flyers. After that, the Arizona Coyotes, then to the Carolina Hurricanes, then to the Detroit Red Wings, and finally back to the Carolina Hurricanes where he is at now.
So my first initial thought is Brandon Bussey hasn't been in that many organizations. I mean, he's only been in a couple. Neither with Detroit either. My next guess is Gostosphere.
Yeah, you got to click. That's who it is, Shane Gostisbehere.
Yeah, I didn't know if he went to Union College, but I knew he was American. For some reason I thought Bussey went to Union College. That's why I kind of thought that. But and I didn't know if he was really in many organizations besides Boston. But I think it's the double Carolina that gave it away a bit, considering he was at the
Yeah,
deadline a couple years
the
ago and then he left and
Carolina,
came back.
the Carolina Detroit Carolina kind of was a a decent hint there. But yeah, it is Goss's fair. I think he's having another stellar season. Like I remember at one point, I thought this guy was probably going to be out of the league within the next couple years, and all of a sudden he's just kind of revived and revived and revived his career. It's definitely been good to see. Mark, I think it's time for me to guess.
Alrighty, I am going to start my timer right now. So my player began with the Plymouth Whalers, moved on to the Anaheim Ducks, then went to the New Jersey Devils, and then to the Pittsburgh Penguins, then to the San Jose Sharks, then to the Toronto Maple Leafs, into the Carolina Hurricanes, and then now currently he is back with the New Jersey Devils.
Damn, this one's tough. I'm guessing he's going to be a Canadian player playing in the OHL, and he's got to be a little bit older, just considering Plymouth hasn't been around for what, about 10
My
years
one
now?
hint is he is actually not Canadian.
Okay, so an American player that played in the OHL. Toronto, Carolina, New Jersey. Pittsburgh, San Jose, Toronto's throwing me off, man.
No
Like,
guesses a minute in.
okay, on New Jersey, it's neither their goalies, defensemen. I don't. It's none of their defensemen. I don't believe. And then forwards. It's, I don't think I'm gonna get this
It,
one.
it is a forward. It is a
Yeah.
forward.
I'm trying to think about their older forwards right now.
Well, your time's technically up. You
Okay,
didn't
you're
really
gonna have
throw a
to.
guess out there at all. This is Stefan Nason.
I do not remember him playing in Toronto at all for some reason.
He actually was on the Leafs during the bubble, and I think he only played a couple games that year, but he was on the taxi squad. But he did
Well,
play some games. He played one game with the Leafs, mostly with the Marlies.
no wonder I don't remember him playing for Toronto.
See, I didn't know if you were going to
Barely
get
there.
this because of the
Yeah.
Plymouth thing.
No, the Plymouth is hard because like even for the Plymouth thing, like I think by the time I was probably like 10 years old, Plymouth had already moved on from being a team, right? Like I wasn't
I
around
also
for a
didn't know
whole
if you
lot
were
when
going to
Plymouth
get
was
the double
playing,
New
but
Jersey part.
yeah. That one made me think, man. I'll say that. It definitely made me think. For some reason too, I also didn't realize Nosen was American.
Yeah, he's from Texas.
Yeah, I whenever I hear his last name, I always think he's fucking European, dude. But
But I mean, you're right. He is a bit of an older player. Like he was
yeah,
drafted in 2011. He's 32 now. Kind of made his debut in the AHL in 2014, and he's been a bit of a journeyman. But honestly, he's kind of carved a pretty good career path for himself the last couple of years. 41 points last year. He's turned into like more of like a middle six guy, but bit of a rough year this year. But I think he's a pretty solid player overall.
yeah, he's definitely found a nice little career for him in the NHL. Overall, though, Mark, that's going to wrap up today's episode. It was pretty much just all trade talk that we did. Um, Coming on next week, and we'll probably be doing some more Olympic talk, talking about some guys that are injured and maybe who some replacements might be. So stay tuned for that. But for everybody tuning in right now, thanks for tuning in.